Hello everyone, I'm AK, currently a first year uni student studying computer science, and here's how I scored a 42 out of 45 in the IB with a 7 in all my HLs. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're currently in the IB or you want to do the IB and want to learn how to do better. So if that's the case, this video is for you. Also, I have all my resources or IB coursework like my IA, EE, and TOK in the description in a Google Drive. So if you're interested in looking at what they look like, they're in the description. To those of you who haven't started the IB yet, I kind of want to give a brief description of what the IB is. But if you've already started the IB, I'll keep like a timestamp on the screen which you can skip to. So in the IB, you choose 6 subjects. So you have your first language, your second language, math, science, humanity, and another science or an art. So ideally, you would take 3 higher level subjects and 3 standard level subjects, which we call HLs and SLs. So I personally took physics, computer science, and math analysis and approaches at the higher level, and English language and literature, Spanish, Abinitio, and economics at the standard level. Now, some students choose to do more than 3 higher levels, so they do like 4 higher level subjects and 2 standard level subjects. I only know 2 people who did this. I would say this would be extremely stressful, especially if you're taking like 2 or 3 sciences at the higher level. So I would say you can consider doing it, but I would highly recommend not to unless you're really gung-ho about IB. Now, in terms of subjects, you're gonna want to take the subjects that you're interested in doing in uni. So for example, let's say you want to do medicine or pre-med, you're going to want to take bio and chemistry, because if you don't take either bio or chemistry, that basically rules out almost all unis for you. So you have to really think about what you want to take in uni and kind of align your subjects with those. If you're not sure about what you want to do in uni, I would highly recommend just taking subjects that you are genuinely interested in, because usually you start appreciating those subjects more when you take them in the IB, especially the ones you're interested in. For me, that was physics. I really started to enjoy physics once I took it in the IB. So I'd highly recommend just taking any subject you're interested in, and you'll really know how much you like that subject after the end of your year 1, and you can apply for that subject in uni if you really like it after that. Now, in terms of the IB, there are a couple of mindset shifts that I think are really important if you want to score well. So firstly, the IB is not a sprint. It's a marathon. The way the IB works is that you're basically tested on 2 years of content. You're literally tested on both the first year and the second year's content at the end of the second year of IB. This means that it's incredibly important to keep revising previous chapters. Don't work 24 hours on one day, pull an all-nighter, and do nothing the rest of the week. Study 4 to 6 hours a day or whatever you're comfortable with, honestly, and be consistent with that. Whether you like it or not, if you want to score well in the IB, you have to learn how to be consistent with your studying. That way you're able to retain this large amount of information towards the end of your year 2. Another thing I'd like to talk about is that don't think you can't get a 7 in a subject because you're not a math person or you're not an English person. Don't think someone is born with the talent to get a 7. If you put in the work, I guarantee you 100% can get a 7 in the subject you least care about and that you least think that you can get a 7 in. Another thing with regards to mindset I would like to highlight is that your grades are a byproduct of how well you study. So what you're chasing is not the grades. What you're chasing is improving how you study. That way you can get the better grades. This means you have to learn how to retain content better and using scientific study techniques while you're studying. If you learn to study better, your grades will be a byproduct of that. So you don't chase the grades, you chase the system of studying that produces those grades. The grades are just a byproduct of how well you study. So focus on how well you study, not the grades you get. That's it. I'm basically done with the mindset shifts and also prerequisites of IB. So now let's get into the real stuff. So firstly, I would like to talk about the holy grail of IB, which are the study guides. So if you don't know what a study guide is, the study guide is the official IB statement for the syllabus. Make sure you open the study guide for each subject you're taking in the IB. So for example, if you're taking math AAHL, make sure you know everything in the study guide because sometimes the textbooks you use will not cover some of the topics. Textbooks tend to stray away a lot from the study guide, and I've personally noticed this a lot with computer science. You need to only know what is in the study guide. You literally do not have to know stuff that are outside the study guide, with textbooks tend to go into a lot. So I would say if there's anything outside the study guide, you literally don't have to learn it. Read the study guide, understand what exactly the IB wants you to know, and learn only those concepts and learn them well. Remember, the study guide has the syllabus, not whatever textbook you're using. If you follow the study guide, you will kind of be able to cut down how much you have to learn because the textbooks tend to give a lot of extra information that is not useful. So now let's get into how you learn for each of the subjects in the IB. Also, when it comes to things like practice problems and all of that, I have free resources in the description which you can use. These are for computer science and physics, which are the two subjects I use these the most for. To learn every subject, first thing you need to do is really understand the underlying concept. Check the study guide, read the exact syllabus statement, and then you want to go to your textbook and read the textbook with the intention of understanding what the study guide wants you to learn. When you're reading a textbook, I don't want you to just passively read a textbook. I want you to do something called recall. What I mean by this is that passively reading from a textbook usually leads to you retaining nothing. What I would highly recommend you do is you read a particular section of your textbook or a particular chapter of your textbook, and then I want you to write down every single thing you remember about that chapter. Then go back to the textbook and see what you missed when you wrote down all those points, and this way you'll know what you don't know, and then you can learn those things you don't know, and then you'll want to write it out on a piece of paper again and basically repeat this process until you can retain everything. Now this is especially important for subjects like the humanities subjects, so let's say Econ or BM, but they're less important for subjects like math or physics. If you're doing something more calculation based like math or physics, I would highly recommend first visualizing what the concept looks like, especially if you need to use a graph for it. The best way to do this is to look at example problems online. Again, there are free resources in the description for this. And then once you're able to understand the concepts, you're going to want to grind as many practice problems as you can. Solve every question in your textbook and then use the resources in the description to practice even more. If you don't know how to solve a particular question, it's really important you learn how to solve that question and then make sure you solve it on your own without looking at the particular resource you used. When it comes to your second language, I would say vocabulary is your best friend. So I personally used to make flashcards in this app called Anki, and I used to revise these flashcards every single day. I would say this is the only way for you to learn a new language well, unfortunately. It is quite high stress, but it is a very effective way of learning, I would say. When it comes to your IAs, if you're an IB Year 1 student, all I can say is listen to your school and do your work in the summer. I know how many deadlines you have on you, and I know your school is probably asking you to submit your physics IA tomorrow, your math extended essay in 3 days, or some BS like that. I know it sounds extremely unreasonable, but trust me, just stick to it the best of your abilities. If your school asks you for your IA first draft deadline 6 months into school, trust me, that is a very good thing. This lightens the load a lot for your second year. That said, if you're in year 2, that doesn't mean you're dead or something. I still have a lot of advice for you guys. The first thing I would advise is, again, read the guide. The guide has really good information of what exactly they want you to do with the IA. Also, really read and understand the criteria IB gives you for grading your IA. For every draft you create, compare whatever you've written to each syllabus statement or each criteria point and try to make appropriate edits to get into the higher bands of scoring. And also get as many rounds of feedback from your teacher as you can if you do have one. Okay, so when it comes to the extended essay, unfortunately, I can't speak for the humanities because it's just too different. I did computer science, but I can speak for the other sciences because I know a lot of friends who did physics and chem, and I would say all the science extended essays are sort of similar, so I can give advice when it comes to that. So as I've been saying this entire video, the first thing I would want you to do is to read the study guide because, again, it has really good instructions on what they exactly want from your extended essay, and also they have like sample research questions and things like that, which will definitely help give you direction on how to start your extended essay. First piece of advice I have is that if you're struggling with your RQ, that's honestly probably the hardest part of your extended essay. All I can say is think about something you really like in a specific subject and think about something that's sort of doable within that subject. So let's say you really like fluid mechanics. Do more research into fluid mechanics, read 2 to 3 research papers, and usually then you're able to get some ideas on possible extended essay RQs. Also, I would highly recommend seeing what other IB students did. Just take a look at other students' extended essay research questions and try to see what other people did, and maybe there's something you can learn from that. Don't entirely copy the RQ, but it's definitely a nice starting point and a good guiding point. Once you've figured out your RQ, figure out your independent and dependent variable, and then start writing your extended essay immediately. When I mean start writing your extended essay immediately, start writing the background information for your extended essay, which is usually the first thing you would want to write in your extended essay anyways. The reason why I asked you to start right away is because the topic is fresh in your mind, and if you read the background information then, it's going to be a lot easier, and also it kind of lightens the load for year 2, especially if you are writing the background information in year 1. Also, it's a great way for you to refer to it later on if you have any doubts with regards to the topic. I would say this shouldn't take more than a week if you're doing proper research and maybe spending like 10 hours over the week. So about an hour a day, or maybe a little over that every day for a week. Just make sure you're doing your research and reading everything properly and really understanding the topic, and write down whatever you understand. That will kind of make it a lot easier for you in year 2. Especially. Now, once you're done with your background information, I would go straight away to the data collection. Now, it's very important to begin your data collection as early as possible, because it is very, very normal that you will realize that your extended essay is not doable and you will have to change your RQ later on. So start your data collection as soon as possible, because if you're not able to collect data, you will have to change your EERQ, unfortunately. If you start as soon as possible, you will at least have enough time to come up with a new RQ and also do data collection for that RQ. I had to personally change my ERQ like 3 times, so it's extremely normal. Once you have your data, I would say the best piece of advice I can give is to draw as many graphs as possible and try to analyze those graphs, because IB really tends to like graphs, especially with the sciences. If you read the syllabus statements for most of the sciences, they will ask you to have a graph anyways, from what I remember, related to what you've learned in the IB and also related to the background information, and go beyond what the IB asks you to do. You'll also need to mention potential problem points in your data collection and ways you can improve it if you were given a chance to do it again. Also, you want to analyze how those problems might have affected your final results. Alright, now let's go into TOK, and this is what most people actually call the hardest component of the IB. Quite frankly, I think with the right approach, this can be some of the easiest points you can get in the IB. My advice for TOK would be reading as many TOK essays and TOK exhibitions as you can. If you can understand the structure good students use to get an A, it's very easy to get an A in both these components. There's one really useful TOK channel I used while doing both my exhibition and my essay, and I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. Also, I do have my TOK exhibition and essay which both scored an A. It's in a Google Drive link in the description. Also, as I've said throughout this video, make sure you read the guide, especially when it comes to TOK. I would say the IB does give you a fair amount of advice on how to score well. Both your essay and exhibition, you're gonna want to use as much TOK jargon as you can. My rule of thumb is that if it makes no sense to you, but your TOK mentor really likes it and is able to understand it and it sounds really philosophical, that is honestly a really, really good thing. So now if you have only 2 weeks left, what do you do? If you have 2 weeks left, I would say the first thing you want to do is put aside a couple of subjects that you want to focus on or dedicate most of your time to. I would assume these are HLs, so you're going to want to put as much time into these as possible. So I would advise using the first 7 days of your 14 days learning the concepts to the best of your ability. You're going to want to look at the chapters that have the most weightage and learn those concepts really well. The next 7 days, you're going to want to do lots of past papers, understand where you made mistakes, and correct those mistakes so that they don't happen again. This is all you can do within 2 weeks, I would say, and this is probably gonna maximize your score within that 2-week time frame. But if you work extremely hard within these 2 weeks, I don't think you can do too bad in the IB. So now let's move on to my exam taking tips. My best piece of advice when it comes to exam taking is to practice as much as you can with the time constraint IB gives you. I did almost 10 past papers for every subject, probably even more, in the 2 months leading to my final IB exams. Figure out a technique for managing your time when it comes to the exams. So for example, for Econ paper 1, what I used to do is I would set aside 20 minutes for the first 10 marker and 55 minutes for the 15 marker, and also checking my paper after that. Then I practiced several past papers with this time constraint. My second tip would be to really understand how the IB scores your paper by looking at the marking criteria for each of those past papers. For example, in physics, a lot of the times you can just get a point by listing the formula from the formula booklet, and these are easy points you can miss if you don't know how the IB grades your answers. Alright, now let's move on to some bonus tips. If you're losing sleep because you want to study longer, I think you're dumb. Get 8 hours of sleep, wake up refreshed, and then study, okay? If you're well rested, you can study a lot better. Also, I would say exercise 3 times a week. This is really good for your general mood. Personally, I exercised every day after studying, and I thought it was really useful and also relaxing in a way. Alright, that's it for this video, guys. I've put a lot of time and effort into this video because I want it to be the best and most useful IB video on YouTube. I really hope you found it useful and shared with a friend who you think might be able to benefit from this video. That's it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I wish you luck for the rest of your IB journey. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I will make sure I respond to every single one of them.